Thank you for joining us on the Going Deeper podcast, a ministry of Fathom Church in Littleton, Colorado. You will never get to the bottom of the depths that are in Christ for you. And our hope with this podcast is that it will help you go deeper with God. So let's dive in to this episode of the Going Deeper podcast. What's up, everyone? This is your host, Kyle Knight, and welcome to the Going Deeper podcast, a podcast where we have conversations, hopefully to help you go deeper in your relationship with God. I'm in the podcast studio here at Fathom Church with our missions minister, Karina Bost. Hi, Karina.
Hello.
And our lead pastor, Chris Martin. Hello, Chris.
I'm here.
You're here.
I'm here.
Again. Hey, today on this amazing podcast episode, we are talking about Halloween.
Amazing podcast.
Amazing podcast.
Wow.
That's going to be in the description. We're going to change the name of this instead of the Going Deeper podcast to the Amazing
Podcast.
Going Deeper podcast.
I'm uncomfortable.
It's like Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man.
The Amazing Spider-Man. The Amazing Podcast.
Speaking of Spider-Man, we're talking about Halloween.
Whoa.
Did you see that?
That was a spooky transition. You have a spider on your shirt.
Yeah, you have a spider shirt. I noticed that.
Yo.
This is...
Not a real
You don't know
one. Not a real one.
how much I hate spiders, and I didn't really realize that it's spider on my shirt, so I thought you were
No, that's
an actual spider.
You
on my
are...
shirt.
You're themed out, dude.
Great. Something that I absolutely hate. We're talking about Halloween.
Spooky.
Yeah, spooky. Ooh. What we're really wanting to do here is talk about Halloween, but really talk about as Christians, do we celebrate Halloween? Should we celebrate Halloween? How should we go about kind of navigating this this holiday, right? So Chris, I don't know, do you have any like background history on Halloween? All Hallows Eve, right? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. I don't even know that we need to. Now, you guys feel free to chime in on this, but I don't think we need to do a whole background on it, because here's the truth. Yeah,
It's Halloween.
It has a background of a rooted pagan tradition, right? So, by the way, so does Easter and so does Christmas. Okay, so like let's just keep that in mind as well. But yes, so let's take a step back and say this. Celebrating Halloween may be the wrong word.
Right.
Maybe we can participate, but I mean, I think of celebration like you're exalting it, or you're marking it, or you're internalizing it in a different level than maybe just like participating in some aspects of that. So that might be part of the conversation, is what do you mean by celebrate Halloween? Yeah. Like, do you turn your house into like the ghoul house? Like, well, I'm not so sure that's a great idea. Do you put a couple of pumpkins on your porch? Well, then call us guilty, because there's like 12,000 pumpkins at my home. How many
gourds do you have?
We are there's an abundance of gourdage in the Martin home right this moment.
Yeah.
None of them have been carved into scariness. So, but like this is then where we begin to have questions as Christians. It's like, okay, so can I have a pumpkin? Okay, so can I carve a pumpkin? Well, what do you mean? Do you like carve it as a jack-o'-lantern? Like that could be maybe some sort of like ritualistic face, or what about? Can you carve a cross? Like, can you carve it in like a? I did a dog one year. I made a dog pumpkin. Sometimes I watch. Have you seen those posts on Instagram where it's like a pumpkin with a mouth open and then it's a bunch of like seeds? Yeah, it's so funny.
Those are sweet.
Really cool. So I mean, like, is that okay? Like, at what? Where's the line? Can your kids dress up? Like, well, maybe they shouldn't be scary things. Okay, maybe they can be. Can they be Elmo? Is that scary? Mm-hmm. Is Elmo scary? Like, is that a scary part of Halloween? I don't know. Yeah. So I guess that's where I really would want us to have our conversation. I don't think we need to do a deep dive into the history of things, because one is I didn't prepare for that.
I don't know it.
But two is I know that it is a rooted pagan druid sort of holiday. Mm-hmm. And I also know that there are modern people who are in witchcraft and movements that still celebrate some of those more nefarious and demonic and evil sides of Halloween. I want to ask the question, what version of that can Christians participate in and what version should we avoid? Because I think that's more of the conversation I'm having with other Christians. It's like, hey, should I let my kid do this? Should I let my kid go trick or treat? Should I let my kid dress up? Should I let, should we engage with our neighbors? Should we turn our light on and have a bowl of candy, or should we shut our lights off and, say, stay away from my home? So that's more of the conversation I think is more valuable. I guess I would like to know this because I wasn't raised in the church. So Halloween was just like gore and scary and candy and fun and, Satan and like those things. But it was all on a real populist level, not like a deep, dark level. It was just it was a scary holiday. You guys were raised in Christian homes. I'd love to hear your experience with Halloween, for good or for bad, as you were coming up, and maybe even how you've kind of started to engage those conversations with your own families. What do you think, Karina?
Yeah. So I grew up in the church, and I grew up trick-or-treating, and dressing up for Halloween and carving pumpkins. I don't know like my parents' reasoning behind all that or what they did, but that's what we did. And so when we had our own kids, we dressed them up and took them trick-or-treating. And I think as they got older, we kind of started to frame the question, you get in the church and people, well, why do you celebrate Halloween? Those kind of things. Why do you participate in Halloween? And so, Kevin and I did come to the conclusion that we do let our kids go trick-or-treating. For us, it's always been something we do with our extended family, and it's just been a great time for us to go out into our community. So without going deep right now, that's my answer. I grew up trick-or-treating, and my kids grew up trick-or-treating as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, we grew up, and I like how you did bring up the word celebrate Halloween. I mean, that actually got me thinking, because it's like, okay, I guess we didn't really like celebrate it, like worship Halloween and what it was meant for, I guess. But we did, yeah, we accepted Halloween. We participated in it. We did, like Karina, we kind of did the normal, not scary things, I guess, of Halloween, of the carving pumpkins and doing the trick or treating and everything like that. Now with our kids, I mean, we pretty much do the same thing. We don't really go overboard with Halloween. It's kind of like if we get to carving pumpkins, we do. If we don't, sometimes it's just a hassle.
Yes, that is true.
With the little ones. But yeah, we let them dress up. Obviously my kids are at the age now where, we're starting to talk, especially my oldest, like starting to talk to him a little bit more about like, not just letting him dress up as whatever he wants, which he's not going to pick really anything scary. Maybe he would, I don't know. But just kind of talking to him a little bit more about it, that like, we want this to be, a fun kind of way, the things that we could do with our family, going trick or treating. We do that. We do that with some of our neighbors too. And it's really for us. It's just a time that we don't really go overboard. We don't really decorate the house or anything like that scary, or really anything Halloween. It's more, I guess, just fall, like your gourds and everything. But yeah, so I think now for me now in my family, it's kind of a reflection of how I grew up. We do it. It's not a huge deal. We don't make it a huge deal, but it's more of just some fun things we can do as a family. Get some candy, spend some time together as a family, carving some pumpkins if we do that. But really, it's to us, it's one of those things that it's like it comes and goes. I think a few years ago we didn't even go trick or treating. We just handed out some candy to neighbors. So we're not like super entrenched in it. But I mean, we participate in it. We kind of accept it. It is what it is. And we'll just keep doing kind of how we celebrate Halloween. What about you, Chris?
I mean, we participate in it. We don't let Harper watch a lot of scary stuff. One, because it scares her and it's just not worth it from a parenting perspective. Two, because we want to protect her heart. And so I think the scariest Halloween show that she's watched is like the Charlie Brown pumpkin Halloween thing. So it's
one.
so I mean, but there's I understand that, you know, there's depictions of witches in that, and there's so it's even that could be, you know, borderline for some people. But we participate in that at kind of a real popular level. She does dress up. We do trick or treat. We go trick or treating. We started with family. We started to go with her cousins. Now we go with our neighbors. It's one of our kind of our cul-de-sac neighborhood fun things that we do, which is, it's a good time to just be with our unsaved friends and participate at that level. If there's really scary houses, we skip them.
Mm-hmm.
I know the other kids go to them, and I've had to have that conversation with Harper to just be like, hey, we don't go to those kinds of houses. And it's not because it's just not worth subjecting my daughter to those things at this point. Scary can be fun, but scary can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the difference, but she's 8 and I don't think she does.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty protective on that front. Now, so that's kind of the level. Like, we don't decorate for Halloween. Yeah. I mean, we gourd up like crazy, but it's not wild. You would say, oh, that's a fall house. You wouldn't say, oh, that's a Halloween house. If you came to my house. But I do want to talk about this. What's your response to the Christian who says, no, like, I don't want anything to do with that. That's Satan's holiday. That's a demonic holiday. That's participating in that is likening to, you know, witchcraft and the casting of bones and like things that are just, I don't want to subject myself, my children, my family to that. That's against what I believe. Which, listen, some of the premises are certainly against what we believe. What's the response that we might have to a brother or sister in Christ with that perspective?
Yeah, I think it's really important to just respect that. And I think it's on both sides. Because for me and my family, we don't really feel like we're going deep into Halloween and getting evil, like all those things that their argument is. But I can see where they're coming from. I can see that's where their conscience tells them, like, this is wrong. And I would never want to force someone to be like, well, get over yourself, just celebrate Halloween, have a good time with everyone. So I think respecting where their position is really important. And just knowing that, hey, like, if that's what you feel, then I think it goes back to, there's a verse in the Bible that says, I don't remember where it's at, but I think it's in reference to eating meat. But if like they feel that it's wrong, then it is wrong for them. Yeah. And so,
I think it's Romans 13, maybe Romans 14, right? Romans 13 through 15, somewhere in there. It's it's don't bind the conscience of the weaker brother.
Yeah. So, so don't subject them to that or make them feel bad for that, because that's what they feel, and that's important.
Yeah, I would agree. And even what you said of just seeing where they're coming from, like something with Halloween, it's like I feel like this is an easy example of like, if someone has that stance, I think we've grown up here. We know enough of the, you know, American culture of Halloween that like I could see somebody who has a really big issue with Halloween and with Christians celebrating or doing anything on Halloween. I think it's this one's easy for us to see kind of that other side of it and say, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. It's one of those, it's all like, it could be one of those slippery slope sort of things of like, yeah, this is a holiday, I guess, I don't know, quote unquote holiday that like families can celebrate. But Chris, you're right that it's like, but you know, it could turn into, okay, well, maybe there's some scarier decorations, or you're dressing up as certain things that you're like, oh, I don't know if you should be like wearing that, or watching some kind of scary movie or something like that kind of just puts an imprint on you and makes you like see sort of things. It's one of those things that I can easily see that side and be like, yeah, I can totally see that. I can totally see how you would be against that. But yeah, it really is totally a respect thing, and be like, okay, like I will 100% respect even if anybody here at this table was like, oh, heck no, we definitely don't do it.
Right.
And you shouldn't. I'd be like, okay,
right.
Great. And I can see the reasons why somebody would say, nah, we're going to stay away from Halloween. You should too. And it's like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to like throw a fit over it or argue or anything like that. It's also one of those things that it's not that big of a deal to me that it's like,
yeah,
I'm going to fight over it.
So what about the opposite side then? Like what would you say, what advice or wisdom might you give somebody, a Christian, a brother or sister in Christ, who's like, yeah, I love Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We watch all the scary movies. Like my kid dresses up as like gory, werewolf, and like just they full on are into it, like into it. Would you say that there are some words of wisdom for them? Are there some words of caution? Are there some words that you would want to say, hey, be careful about this? Like I think there are some, the pendulum can swing, right? From maybe where I'm hearing you two, and from my perspective, that we observe and participate in a cautious way to have fun, to connect with family and friends and neighbors, but we're also cautious about, some of the more, let's just say, varsity level of scary that comes along with Halloween. Is there a warning for Christians on over participating or celebrating in this holiday? What do you think about that?
Yeah, the world is always watching us. And I think Halloween is one of those times that the world is watching how the church responds. And with that, it's kind of easy to want to say like, well, let's just blend in, whatever, and not make it. But we are called to be different. Like we are different. And Halloween is one of those times where like there is a line and having your neighbors see like, oh, they are participating in Halloween, but like it only goes so far to know that like we are different in the world. We, that was the start of my thought.
And I think as you were saying that, Chris, it just made me think of like, I think with anything, Halloween included, but with anything, there's always that sort of level of like, just be careful, like, what you're watching, be careful what you're getting into, like that sort of thing with me. And personally with me, so I love scary movies. Like I just love a good scary movie. I'm also at the age where I know what movies to not even like, if I'm trying to find like a good scary movie, I'm like, oh, I probably like shouldn't watch that just because maybe it's just too much. But I think also like specifically with Halloween, I think just with it being so, like this could, it kind of, people who maybe go over the top with Halloween, it's really putting up on this pedestal, this really, and we've kind of been talking about this last few weeks or whatever, of this like spiritual warfare kind of thing. It's that kind of stuff that kind of makes it a little, just again, a slippery slope, a little sketchy, that I would just be like, hey, along with everything else, just beware. But I think this especially, that it's like, just Chris, you said it, like, especially with our kids, like my kids too, like I want to guard their hearts. I want to guard their eyes of what they see, and just protect them. And I would say the same thing to an adult too. Like I can watch a scary movie. What's great is my wife absolutely hates scary movies. And so I almost never watch them. And like you said about your kids, I would never, like, I learned not to be like, hey, wife, watch this with me, because it's just not worth it, because she just loses it afterwards. And so I think it's just all about, it's about that boundaries. It's about like making sure you're not going like too far where that like temptation just kind of keeps pulling you into whatever it is, that it just becomes too much.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, that you love watching scary movies. I don't like it, first of all, but I also don't watch them. As an almost 40-year-old guy, I still don't watch scary movies. And I don't know if it's just how I'm wired. I don't know if it's because I love to read fiction. I don't know what it is about me, but my imagination is too vivid that I get scared. Like not just during the movie, I'll have nightmares, I'll have dreams, like, and my theology informs that at some level. Like I can't study demonology and Satan. Like when I do deep dives into that stuff for sermon preps, things like that, man, I can feel like I feel different. And so I very much try to abstain from watching those things, just because I don't need that extra. It's like my imagination is too vivid to allow for me to really have a fun participation level in those things. And so I just think I wouldn't say to Kyle, well, Kyle, you should never watch, these shows. You're sinning or something like that. But I think all of this comes back to what we say in kind of church theology and in church language, matters of conscience, that this is a matter of conscience. There are some who by their conscience cannot participate in this. They will not participate in this, and that's okay. And we're not to try and convince them otherwise, or like, beat them down with like, oh, you're just being weird, or you're just being lame, or what. Like don't do that. Okay. It's also a matter of conscience if you want to participate. I think that's okay. And I don't think that should be, looked down upon or frowned upon. I do think that there's wisdom that we would say is just general Christian wisdom to say, don't over participate. Don't put yourself in a problematic situation, especially if you've got young kids. Just like you said, guard them and protect them. Let me ask this question as we kind of are starting to run out of time on this one. What do you say to the person? There are people in our church who have experiences in the occult, in potential witchcraft stuff, in, Ouija and, tarot, and like things that are associated on a popular level with Halloween, but they've taken some deeper dives into those things. What would your advice be to them? Or if they were to say, how do I handle Halloween? Like what do we say to that person? Because I think that might be a different category than somebody who has no background in that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough because I don't have, like, I'm coming from the perspective of like, I don't have a background in that. So that's why, I could watch a scary movie and it doesn't really affect me in that way. But like, yeah, no, that's tough. I think those are the kind of people that you maybe just show some extra love towards, that you give them a little bit more guidance. And I guess it's one of those things that you when, as we talk about, and we talked about this with just a lot of temptations and sin, and whether it's drinking or whatever it is, like having a drink or something like that around somebody who struggles with that. I think this is kind of that piece of wisdom as Christians who are around those types of people to just kind of show them sort of that love and be like, you know what, like we won't participate in that. Like it's okay if you done that, but like not bring them closer to any sort of triggering thing or temptation sort of thing. And just walk alongside him in that. Like that's something that if somebody came up to me and was like, I'm struggling with this, again, this is a Halloween thing that I'd be like, cool. Like if you can hang out with us, we will not do any of that. Like not like it's one of those things that's like you show love to your brother and your sister in Christ, and whatever they're struggling with, you help them. And if that means you're going to give up something or whatever like that, then do.
That's good. What do you think, Karina?
Yeah, I think it's, I think for them, Halloween definitely means something different because of like practices and experiences that are just more closely related to the demonic side of Halloween. And so I think it's like, if you've struggled with alcoholism, hanging out in the bar is probably not the best place for you. So I think that's true with Halloween. If you've had experiences, demonic, like if you grew up in the occult or something, avoiding Halloween is probably wise because you just never know what can trigger something, or it's just maybe a little bit too close to home. So, and I think that there's a lot of other things you can do on Halloween and avoiding things that can cause you to stumble is way more important than just going with the norm and just deciding to, oh, whatever, I'll be fine.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think likening it to alcohol is really good, because if you have struggle with alcohol, then it is not good for you to. You may never be able to have a casual social drink, right? It's not on the table. Even though none of us would say that's a sin, right? Drinking is not a sin. Overconsumption is a sin. Just like I don't think we could say biblically, we don't want to add to the text. So Halloween doesn't seem to be a sin. But there, for some, it might be. There's a lot of wisdom that's needed there. And I would also say this to my Christian friends: if you've got somebody who I echo what Kyle says, if you've got somebody who struggles with this, whether it's from that or they're just bound by their conscience that this thing is wrong, listen, that can be an isolating and lonely place to be. So you might love them well by saying, hey, why don't we just hang out and watch movies and just like do something else on Halloween night? Why don't we go do something that's not Halloween-ish, and I'll be there with you because I love you. And I think that's, I mean, there's times where if I'm with somebody who doesn't drink, I don't drink. And guess what? That means that they don't have to be the one person that's not drinking.
Yep.
And you need that partnership. You need that friendship. So I think that's good. I think that's good advice. So first of all, I think this conversation is played out. I think we've kind of covered it all. I'm kind of tired of this conversation, frankly, if I'm honest with you. But I do want to commend our people to wisdom. To prayerfully considering what the Lord has burdened their conscience with, not trying to overbearingly lay that upon other Christians, but also to act with wisdom and compassion and grace, and see this as an opportunity for mission and outreach, for loving your neighbor and also getting to know people. Like, this is a great way to do this as well. So all of that in balance, I say participate at whatever level you feel is appropriate for you and your family.
That's good. Couldn't have said it better myself. Are you going to dress up this year?
No.
Oh, okay. Are you going to dress up, Karina?
I always have a unicorn headband that I wear. So whatever I'm wearing, throw on that unicorn headband. That's the extent of it.
Next podcast episode.
I only dressed up as Woody the cowboy that one year, but
that's true.
Weren't you a puppy one year? A cat?
No, Harper wanted me to be.
Okay.
She wanted to be a cat, and she wanted me to be her litter box.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's not happening.
What you're saying is, if Harper comes to you this year and really wants Daddy to dress up as Woody again,
she doesn't. I know this already. Okay. So
yeah, it's like not worth the ask. Well, hey, thank you guys for this conversation, church. Hopefully, this helped you out a little bit. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.